Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with a very special multicast Hadriz, my clanmate from the QSA clan, and yes, I am in fact in a clan. I don't really talk about it too much, but QSA is, sort of a little clan of some very, very good players. Hadriz is one of them, and he dumped a bunch of replays from a recent tournament. I believe this is my son HW's tournament, but Hadriz, you can let us know if that's not the case. But, yeah, so we've got a multicast here today for you guys. We're going to be starting in with Tomb Kings versus Empire, and right off the bat, this Sunmaker is going to get taken out by some Carrion, which is absolutely brutal. For the rest of the Empire, we've got Spearmen with Shields, Huntsmen, Royal Altdorf Griffites, we've got some Knights of the Blazing Sun as well, so very good stuff. Warrior Priest with Banner of Eternal Flame there for the Altdorf Griffites. Karl Franz also on horseback, Jade Wizard on foot, and a whole line of state troops. For Hadriz Tomb Kings, we've got SETTRA, some Skeleton Horsemen, Necropolis Knights with Halberds, interesting pick, Ushabti Great Bows as well. We've got a Tomb Prince, and let's see, Tomb Guard with Halberds, looks like the Kepler Guard as well. Nope, just Nehekara Warriors, more Tomb Guard in the front. So pretty decent stuff. You can see these Carrion generating some great value right off the bat here, taking out this Sunmaker without it having gotten any work done. And, I mean, Sunmaker's a fun unit, but I would never take it in a tournament. At least not for the time being. This is going to be a ton of value lost, and you can see he did cast Regrowth on them, but they're not actually getting a lot of the value of that healing, so that's pretty unfortunate situation and pretty big loss of magic there. But Ushabti Great Bows are going to be firing into this engagement here. Necropolis Knights with Halberds and engaging the Royal Altdorf Griffites. Unfortunately, the Warrior Priest, it doesn't look like he has the melee attack buff, or if he did, he's elected not to use it at this point. You really should either give Reichland Runefang. It looks like maybe he doesn't have Reichland Runefang, but there's the Hammer of Sigmar now, and yeah, realizing this, SETTRA is going to come in here and go after the Warrior Priest directly, just do a bunch of damage to him. He's got his Blessed Blade of Petra going, so you can get in there and debuff their stats. A very nice rear charge with the Skeleton Horsemen as well. Likewise, the Knights of Blazing Sun trying to get in here also to support, but they don't get nearly as good of a charge into those Necropolis Knights there, so very, very pitched engagement here, and you can see, unfortunately, the Jade Wizard and the Warrior Priest both took a beating there, which is pretty bad. Likewise, the Royal Altdorf Griffites, because they were just kind of sitting there getting shot by the Great Bows the whole time, they are not doing well. So that's two high-value units right off the bat, kind of on the ropes here for the Empire players. So a pretty rough situation, but here we go. Maybe they can bail out what's left of the Sunmaker crew there with those Knights of the Blazing Sun. Still plenty of Knights online, and Emperor Karl's still very healthy as well, but it does look like the caster, again, just getting drawn out of position here, and SETTRA probably will be able to finish him off, but yeah, it's definitely a tough situation. Karl on horseback is decent. Looks like he's actually on a barded warhorse. Not too bad, but yeah, I don't know. He still only has 43 melee defense with Hold the Line, which is actually not amazing, and you can see these Knights of the Blazing Sun get back in the back line here. Try and tie down these Ushabti Great Bows. On the charge, they definitely will get a lot of damage done. But, yeah, it might be too little too late, as the Royal Altdorf Griffites, which is really the target they needed to save, they pretty much pushed off here as well. Getting this Jade Wizard pushed off is very important. It does look like the Warrior Priest is back from route, but that's why if I'm supporting the Royal Altdorf Griffites with the Warrior Priest, I would almost always bring the, the Shield of Faith, because, you know, that damage mitigation means that you have to heal them less, right? And just in general, it's going to make your high-value units more cost-effective. So, yeah, a little bit of a rough situation there, but maybe the Warrior Priest and Karl, giving Karl fire damage, can go out there. The Tomb Prince looking like he doesn't want to get involved. Nope, just juking out those State Troop Spearmen, getting a little caught up still, but he'll be fine. And yeah, SETTRA's going to get into an engagement here. Maybe Karl can come in. He doesn't have Gal Miraz, though, to give himself bonus versus large and extra AP. So yeah, he's purely just his stats here, and I mean, he has pretty decent stats. Unfortunately, just on horseback, though, he doesn't have the best health in the world, but that flaming damage from the Banner of Eternal Flame definitely helps. Hammer of Sigmar as well, so maybe he can come back. Bounce power is still very close despite everything, but that's really bad. The Warrior Priest gets terrified away. Hadriz, a very veteran move there, getting rid of the fire damage on the Warrior Priest so that Karl no longer has it. Very good stuff. He's also going to go after the Jade Wizard, make sure that it can't get any heals off. It's going to go one more Desperation Earthblood there from the Jade Wizard, but yeah, too little too late to actually save himself, it looks like. Maybe. He might be able to get away here, but oh no, this is bad. The Ushabti summon now going to be used in a very key situation here to stop Karl, allow SETTRA the Imperishable to escape. These Royal Altar Fights are online. They really ought to come and help kind of bail out the situation here. Sunmaker actually did manage to get back somehow. A lot of these Tomb King's infantry actually crumbling pretty badly here. Only really the Tomb Guard holding up, which is not super surprising, but Ushabti Great Bow's also coming forward now. We've also got that one Tomb Guard with Halberd left, so we'll see. Meanwhile, over here, it looks like Karl is in a bit of a pickle as he is fighting against the Tomb Prince and completely surrounded by Ushabti. The surround from the Ushabti especially means that he's going to be getting, you know, multiple attacks from different directions and just constant damage from those Ushabti. So yeah, bad situation for Karl. As he starts to take damage, the balance of power, you'll see, will tick more and more in the Tomb King's favor here. And yeah, Tomb Guard with Halberds moving in now just to final cleanup phase, despite the fact that a lot of the Skelly boys got mopped up. Obviously, these Tomb Guard trading very well. 71 kills. This one, let's see here if I can get their unit card. 155 kills there, so very, very good stuff. Tomb Guard, pretty decent mid-tier infantry, honestly. I don't know if they're necessarily the best mid-tier infantry, but they're absolutely decent. So, yeah. Looking a bit tricky. Knights of the Blazing Sun are going to come for a supporting charge here, maybe? Nope, looks like they opt not to charge those Tomb Guard. Yeah, balance power creeping back slightly towards even as Karl comes back, but Karl immediately just going to go for it here, go for broke, charge SETTRA. Royal Altar Fights come in as well. And yeah, that big fiery explosion damage will do a lot. Karl's getting some good hits in, though. SETTRA giving himself some physical resistance. Very well done there to help mitigate some of that damage. The Royal Altar Fights as well, just so low on leadership and health at this point. Yeah, he maybe should just try and focus on taking out the Tomb Prince, because obviously the Tomb Prince is giving SETTRA extra physical resistance. No, it doesn't look like he actually brought Guardian on that Tomb Prince, so maybe not the biggest issue in the world, but yeah. Here, Karl's going to get chased off by said Tomb Prince, and that will pretty much be the end of the battle for the Empire. They are going to very, very quickly run into an army losses situation, so we'll fast forward through the last, as we do have a few replays to get through today. But yeah, interesting builds on both sides. Obviously, Sunmaker ended up being a huge, huge mistake. And honestly, like, there's some meme value in bringing the Sunmaker, but especially in a tournament, I would say you cut that and just bring some regular artillery, or even like the Black Lions would be pretty good in this matchup, because they can, I think they outrange Ushabti Great Bows. I would have to double check, but I mean, you can mostly keep them safe from the Tomb King's fast attack units, like, you know, Nehekar Horsemen. Nehekar Horsemen might do some damage to them, but like Skeleton Horsemen, Carrion are going to do very little. And, you know, having the mobile artillery, you can reposition to get away from skeletons and so on. So, personally, I would just say that the Black Lions are going to be better here than the Sunmaker, obviously. And the other thing, too, is the Warrior Priest's flaming damage does apply to missile attacks as well. So you don't necessarily need to take fire damage on your missiles, which is kind of the point of the Sunmaker, right? If you just stand him next to the Black Lions, they will also get that fire damage. So in that way, you can use that to go after, you know, Tomb King's characters, which is kind of what I'm assuming the idea here was. But you could also, you know, maybe cut the Altdorf fights and just take Karl up on his Griffin to give him a lot more stopping power. Kitting out Karl with, like, Galmaraz and his buffs as well, I think is very important, especially against SETTRA, because that Blessed Blade of Petra is directly countered by Standard Ground and Reichland Runefang. And extra leadership is always helpful as well, plus it hits all of the supporting units nearby. If any of them are getting hit by the Blessed Blade of Petra, you know, it helps negate that as well. So, few critiques there for that Empire build, but very well played to Hadris. I'm not the biggest fan of the Necropolis Knights with Halberds, but they did enough here. I think, honestly, you just cut them and go a bit wider with Nehekara Horsemen. And, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the Nehekara Warriors either. I think, again, you just go maybe a little bit cheaper and wider, but, hey, he won, so turned out to be reasonably effective. Let's go ahead and get to the next replay. They'll never see me here. I'm just one of the Skelly boys. Oh, sorry guys. We're here with the next replay with Hadris, once again taking Tomb Kings. This time he's facing off against our very own Kark. So, Kark is here playing the Beastmen. Let's go ahead and get to these builds. We've got, let's see, 3 Chaos Spawn with some Gore Herds with shields up front. Couple of Pig Herds, which is very strong. A whole huge Vanguard of Ungor Spearmen, which is Not something you see every day. I guess these guys are meant to go after the Ushabti Greatbows, perhaps. More Gorehurts with shield over on the side. And for the leadership, we've got double Gorebull and Malagor, which I am a huge fan of. I like this leadership core quite a bit, personally, so we'll see how Kark does with it here. Hadriz is definitely a very strong player, as is Kark, so I'm definitely excited to see this. But right off the bat, you can see the Ushabti Greatbows opening up on the Gorebulls. They're going to try and cut and run and dodge around a little bit here to, you know, maybe not take quite so much damage. But, oh man, the Beastman rush is coming very aggressively. Lich Priest gets caught out front, and the pigs here, oh man, that actually ended up being okay for the Tomb Kings there, because the Lich Priest sort of broke the charge, if you will, but the Chaos Spawn now mixing it up with the Tomb Scorpion, actually with the Poison and their high weapon strength, the Chaos Spawn will actually do reasonably well here. The Gorebull is trying to muscle their way in here, but having a hard time. They really need to path up and around so they can get an effective rear charge, but here we go. Now this Gorebull can get in and get some good work done on this Scorpion. So we'll see. Oh no, looks like he's actually going after the Lich Priest, Lord of Death. Very interesting, but already that one Gorebull who's been static for a while, just kind of standing around, not really getting a good engagement there, has been picked apart a bit by those Greatbows. Now granted, the full Vanguard is in effect now. You can see units coming from all angles, so the Beastmen, you know, assault definitely getting underway. Beastmen do very well at this sort of swarm type strategy, so yeah, it's pretty good so far. Tomb Kings do have some units which are crumbling, but the Realm of Souls looking like it's hitting the second tier there, just popping off in time to help stabilize some of these units. Nekaro Warriors suffering pretty badly here, as are the Skeleton Warriors and more. Obviously, SETTRA is still pretty healthy here in the center, as is this Necrotect. So very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. There's still a lot of pigs, though. The pigs is an issue, and a beautiful Vile Tide there from Malagor. That's the main reason you bring Malagor. Just that obviously the Vigor refresh and just that massive amount of damage you can get out from spamming those things. It's really, really strong. That being said, I mean, we'll see. There's still quite a few big terror-causing units for the Tomb Kings here, and the Spawn, although they are unbreakable and they can hold these guys in place for a while, I don't know. They'll do some damage, but it's still not going to be necessarily great for them. The Gorebulls are really going to need to be the ones to do it, but obviously focusing on the Greatbows right now, very good play. Another really nice Vile Tide there. The Chariots, unfortunately, haven't really had a chance to get working too much. I say that. 133 kills and some XP chevrons, so evidently, even though it doesn't look like they've been pulling around too much, they must have been getting some good damage in somewhere, but oh, here we go. Some beautiful throwing axes from these two Centaurs here, doing a ton of damage to that Tomb Scorpion. It is going to get the restore from the Necrotech there, so a nice little HP heal to soak some of that ammo, but we'll see. There's still a lot of heavy Beastman units on the field for Kark. Malagor himself going to start to come over at this point to provide maybe some leadership buffs. Another beautiful Vile Tide there, just doing a ton of damage to those Skeleton Spearmen. And yeah, SETTRA's in a bit of a pickle right now. If Gorebull really needs to be the one fighting here, but the Spawn obviously will help. They can kind of poison and stuff, but Gorebull's the one with the real stopping power, so come on, push through. They're just Spawn. Looks like he's having a hard time, but oh man, and yeah, just when he gets in contact there, he gets staggered. I really wish that the Gorebulls didn't have animations to get knocked down, honestly. I think it's kind of silly. But anyway, the throwing axes continue to throw here. This Tomb Scorpion has taken a ton of damage. The healings have been pretty good on it, but Beastmen, I'm starting to feel just running out of steam a little bit here in the late game. I mean, granted, the balance power is still very even, but a lot of the Beastmen infantry is starting to have a hard time with leadership. Granted, most of the Tomb King's infantry is gone as well, and they're kind of down to this little Death Star. But Incantation of Protection there, and I mean, obviously SETTRA can sit in this kind of sustained fight. Blessed Blade of Petra doing very, very well here, kind of debuffing all those units. You can see Gorebull's stats 10 and 5 there for his attack and defense because of that Blessed Blade, so very, very strong item and definitely paying absolute dividends here. This Gorebull taking a bunch of damage is really, really bad. The Chariots also getting in the back line, somehow charging into Centaurs, which is not exactly what they're meant for, but hey, whatever works. And yeah, the fact that both of these Scorpions are still alive, SETTRA is still alive, it's just multiple single entities that can, rear charge pockets and get giant terror routes. The Necrotect, of course, also has anti-infantry. Not a pushover by any means. 50 melee attack on the Necrotect with 360 weapon strength. Let's check that bonus versus infantry. Obviously won't help much against Gorbel, but plus 20 bonus versus infantry. So yeah, he can actually get in here and slug it out with some of these beastie boys. He could even go after Malagor and probably beat the brakes off of him, but at this point, balance power is starting to turn in the Tomb King's favor, as I mentioned. Just not really able to continue sustaining here, unfortunately. Yeah, it's definitely a tough one. The Tomb Kings may be the toughest matchup for the Beastmen right now, in my opinion. There's definitely some things that you can do, but it's interesting. The Malagor double Gorbel ended up doing okay. I mean, obviously the battle was still pretty close at the end of the day, but the fact that the Necrotech was able to keep these two Tomb Scorpions just sustained the whole time, I think was pretty rough. Maybe I would have liked to have seen the Butchers of Kalkengard from the Beastmen here, even though, yes, SETTRA does get fire damage with Blessed Blade of Petra. As long as you're not fighting him while he has that active, which you shouldn't be anyway, then, you know, you're not going to be at risk of taking that fire damage, you know, on the Butchers. So I would just think that having them here would be supremely helpful, but yeah, at this point it's Malagor making his last stand with his little Centaur buddies, and very well played to Kark and Hadriz both. Yeah, that Necrotech, man. Oh, and SETTRA goes down right at the end there to those throwing axes, and that will keep things honest, at least for a little bit. But, yeah, a little bit too late, unfortunately. If they had been able to pick him off earlier, maybe they could have done something. But again, these two Tomb Scorpions and the Necrotech still completely healthy at this point. And, yeah, the fact that there's these double terror-causing units, both being supported by the leadership of the Necrotech, and then he himself can come in and target Malagor, which maybe he won't. Looks like they're having a fun time over there, but Ushabti Greatbows as well, of course, not complete pushovers in melee, and it does look like we're going to go ahead and hit army losses there for the boys. And yep, Necrotech going after Malagor, just as I mentioned. So yeah, very, very fun stuff. Again, big thanks to Hadriz for dropping these. We've got a few more to get through, but man, I was skeptical about that chariot, but 252 kills, 3 XP chevrons over the course of the battle. That is absolutely legit. The Skeleton Spears did a reasonable job. 60 kills on Skeleton Spears is actually pretty nice. 57 for SETTRA, 25 from the Necrotech. Considering he's just a foot dude, that's not bad. 29 for the Great Bows here. This Great Bow kind of got taken out as Kark was able to collapse that pocket really aggressively. I just don't think ultimately he had enough stopping power to take down these big armored single entity models, and that can be an issue sometimes as the Beastmen that you run into. Well, for me, I mean, obviously, Centaurs with throwing axes can be a good tool, but I probably would have cut like 2 of these spawn, maybe try and change this infantry composition a little bit, just to afford the Butchers of Kalkengard, and especially with Malagor, if you take the Mantle of Garok and cast it on the Butchers of Kalkengard, they will rip any of these large single entity targets to shreds. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on that matchup, but before I go too deep, let's go ahead and get to the next replay. Alright, and we're back. Hadriz is now taking the Empire to atone for his previous sins, and we've got the Zintler's Reiksguard here in a Vanguard, going to be facing off immediately against some Spider Riders, so you know what that means. Empire versus Greenskins. Let's get to the builds. We've got Boris on a Pegasus, Empire Captain as well, very nice little combo. Ember Wizard on foot, Reiksguard, let's see here, 3 units of Outriders, 1 with grenade launchers, and some more Reiksguard. So a very interesting Empire build. We've just got a handful of infantry here, a few spearmen, and the Sigmar's Sons. So definitely looking to take advantage of some terrain here, potentially. As for the Greenskins, we've got Savage Orcs here, Savage Orc Biggins as well. Looks like, yeah, more Biggins, more Savage Orcs, plenty of Archers as well, Rusty Airs and some Night Goblin Archers. Got a couple Skulkers, a couple Borcav with some chevrons on one of them at least. Wurzag himself, and yeah, some more Night Goblins. Yes, of course, the 8-peak loonies, because you can't leave home without the 8-peak loonies, right? And Effigy of the Git being blown there to take out those Reiksguard. I mean, granted, yes, Reiksguard are a pretty high value target, but is it really worth blowing an Effigy to Git on? I'm not sure. Was that ultimately worth it at the end of the day? Thing is, the Outriders are still going to be able to come in here and skirmish reasonably effectively, and as these forces kind of drop down from the side here, you can see that the Skirmish Cav, unfortunately, that I failed to see earlier, also took a bunch of damage from that engagement, so not the best. Smoke Bomb coming in, and the Skulker is going to follow up as the Reiksguard get a beautiful charge into those Savage Orcs. Zintler's Reichsguard now going to follow up as well. They might just face charge the Skulkers here, in which case they're going to do a ton of damage to him. And you can see the Biggins trying to get in here to support, but a very nice Flock of Doom as well. Would like to probably see a Manticore summon at some point just to see... yeah, see about dropping a big Terror Bomb, but you can see those 2 light units just got absolutely destroyed there. I'm honestly not a fan of Savage Orcs. I think they're pretty squishy for what they give you at the end of the day, and they very often seem to just die like this. I mean, yes, they, in theory, can do quite a bit of damage, but I'm not a fan of Savage Orcs at all. Over here, you can see Boris drops down to try and assassinate Wurzag. The captain comes in to support the Reichsguard against those Savage Orc Boar Boys who, again, have the chevrons, not really helping them out too much there as they do get routed off most unfortunately. Orc Boar Boy Biggins now going to charge in here. They will get a good rear charge situation on these Reichsguard, but... yeah, here comes the Manticore summon now, going after Wurzag. You can see the infantry fight. The Orcs are just kind of starting to randomly chew on little bits over here, but like these Skulkers, these other Savage Orcs, aren't really doing too much. I think even some Biggins over there as well, yeah, getting pulled out of position by those Reichsguard. So the fact that they have left Wurzag all alone here without any Cav support is a huge, huge mistake, obviously. And the Reichsguard and hopefully the Manticore will actually drop down and finish him off, but he may be able to kind of make a little bit of an escape here. Meanwhile, over on the far side, the Boar Cav did somewhat stabilize here. 2 units of Reichsguard, but a very nice Flock of Doom. Probably not going to have those Savage Orcs sticking around for too much longer. We'll see. Maybe they will. We've also got some good Overwatch fire from the Mangy Marauders here, providing those nice armor-piercing missiles. And yeah, the Miss Micro from the Manticore just briefly here. A little bit rough there, but yeah, Outriders still plenty of ammunition. The Sigmar Sun's also up on the high ground, being held in a tactical reserve. But oh, this is a great use for a captain here, just chasing off that Chevron unit, and you can see once they leave, that will tip the balance of power slightly as that unit is gone. And yeah, just again, more units being collapsed over here. Here comes the Wah. I'm not sure if he had one earlier, but better late than never, I suppose. And it is going to allow some of these units to start to cut up some of these Empire troops on this side. You can see now the Sigmar Suns starting to come down to the low ground. And yeah, we'll see. The issue is these Reichsguard have just run absolute rampant. 88 kills in the Chevron there. Let's see. The Zentler's Reichsguard are up to 159. They're just about finished off here, but they have gotten an immense amount of work done on this Greenskins army. So yeah, good stuff. People often ask me, when would you use Reichsguard over Empire Knights? And well, here you go. Here's one situation. They do have better charge bonus. They just have better everything than Empire Knights. Pretty much, like, whatever Empire Knights can do, Reichsguard can do just a little bit better. And Empire Knights are pretty good at a lot of things, and so that obviously means that Reichsguard are going to be, stopped in their tracks by an effigy to get from Vengeful Wurzag. He's still hanging around, but here comes Boris. Yeah, those Reichsguard unfortunately going to get dragged down. Managed to get, 2 XP chevrons, so quite impressive. The Amber Wizard's still hanging around. The Sigmar Sun's actually probably going to finish off those Black Orcs, which is quite impressive. Grenade launchers blowing up some of the Loons, who did manage to get a hold of those Outriders. Granted, the Outriders used up a lot of their ammunition, like shooting those Black Orcs and so on, but we'll see. A very pitched engagement here as Boris drops down to help support against some of this light cav. The Zintler's Reichsguard fighting literally to the last man here. Oh man, true hero of the Empire. We salute you, sir. He is going to be the new Kurt Helborg, right? Is that actually Kurt Helborg? You guys let me know in the comments. But fighting to the last man there and then finally deciding to call it quits. Second Manticore summon, though, again, going to be able to drop down a really nice terror route. Mangy Marauders are immune to psychology, but these Night Goblin Archers most certainly are not. And neither are those Savage Orc Biggins. So yeah, it's a pretty good situation. Manticore Summon's obviously just so strong against the Greenskins because of the terror. But yeah, a little bit of a brain burster there, catching those Spearmen. And you can see the Outriders now getting in a position to launch some grenades at this unit of Biggins, which is exactly what they need to be doing. This Biggin unit needs to be taken care of ASAP. It's the main danger kind of left on the field. And yeah, Mangy Marauders pushing through, trying to get on said grenade launchers, push them off, but the State Troop Spearmen in a position to support, and Wurzag now gets caught out by Boris and the Manticore. Looks like the Biggins are going to help out a little bit in that fight. They do rout off the Amber Wizard as well, which is fine. He already got his Manticore summons off. But yeah, Manticore's enraging after Wurzag, which is most unfortunate. Grenade launchers and Outriders continuing to absolutely explode these Savage Orcs. Oh, a nice foot of Gork there. Probably did quite a bit of friendly damage on those Savage Orc Biggins, so I don't know if that was necessarily worth it, but definitely took out quite a few Spearmen and the Sigmar Sons there, but yeah, as Wurzag takes a few more hits, gets terrified away, that is army losses, and only the loons remain. So we'll go ahead and fast forward to the finish here. Gotta love the 8-peak loonies. They're such a good unit. But yeah, going to be too late in the end game here, and Boris will take out the win. So another good one from Hadriz. Definitely like this build quite a bit. The Empire Captain plus Boris, both on Pegasi. You know, very strong characters. The Empire Captain in and of himself is not super strong, but he does have a very high charge bonus when he's on the Pegasus. So he can, you know, drop down, charge something, get back up into the air, right? Like, it's pretty cool to have him at the head of all these Reiksguard, too. I know it's not really thematic for Boris to have the Reiksguard, but hey, we can't have everything, right? And, yeah, Boris, 85 kills despite only being on a Pegasus. 109 there for those Reiksguard. And, yeah, just XP chevrons all around. I'm sure the Zentlers would have gained a ton if they could. But Outriders doing some good damage to those Black Orcs as well. Grenade launchers, 72 kills against lighter units. And yeah, for Chosen One's build, again, I'm not a fan at all of Savage Orcs. I think you trade these guys out for more Night Goblins, actually, just because the Night Goblins have poison, they have stock, they're going to take just as much damage, and they're a little bit cheaper, so you can go, you know, allocate funds in a few different places. Savage Orc Biggins are a pretty good choice, though, some elite kind of anti-large type unit. As for the rest, Orc Error Boys I think are a lot better than Goblin Archers in this matchup for the sole reason of their armor piercing. I mean, of course, they also hold up slightly better to Reiksguard charges, although you really don't want that happening. But yeah, also the Boar-Cav is not the best in my opinion as well. Just in general, Boar-Cav tends not to be super cost effective, so I think you kind of got to go in a little bit of a different direction. Yeah, maybe I'll talk more about that matchup another time. But yeah, very well played to both, and we've got a couple more to get to, so let's get to it. All right, and we're back. This time Hadriz has taken the Dark Elves, and he's facing off against Tutorial's Empire. And you can see right off the bat, these Empire archers, Huntsmen even, are in a bit of a pickle. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the builds, though. We've got Knights of the Blazing Sun, some more Huntsmen up front, pretty decent in this matchup. We've also got an Amber Wizard here, some Spearmen also, Royal Altdorf Griffites, looks like more Spearmen, got some Pistoliers out to the side with some more Knights of the Blazing Sun, so very good stuff. For Hadriz Dark Elves, those Dark Riders that just got wrecked, we've got Slaanesha's Harvesters as well, currently cursed by the Curse of Onraer. Looks like plenty of Dark Riders with Repeater Crossbows as well, getting some good damage in. That Breath Attack, unfortunately, was a bit of a swing and a miss there, but oh yeah, those Dark Riders also taking a ton of damage from the Huntsmen as well. We've got a couple of Cold One Knights piling in. There's more Cold One Knights and Corsairs kind of out on the periphery, so a tough map too. I'm not the biggest fan of this map, this Fall of Man map, especially for a tournament choice. But yeah, you can see that Empire getting some okay engagements initially. Definitely getting some good work done with the Huntsmen, but some Harpies going to drop down in Vanguard and start to take out those Huntsmen. Royal Altdorf Griffites will come counter-screen, but keep in mind that Harpies do count as infantry sized, so the Royal Altdorf Griffites will not be getting their bonus versus large against those Harpies. You can see these Slaanesha's Harvesters are also able to get up into the back line here, so what initially seemed a little bit rough for Hadriz, he has been able to somewhat bring back here. At least tying down these Huntsmen for the time being is very important, and he can pretty decisively win the infantry fight here. Knights of the Blazing Sun just crushing those Dread Spears, though. We've got Pistoliers operating out in the periphery as well, so we'll see. In terms of a Pitched Lord fight here, unfortunately, Boris has managed to get himself caught by Malekith and these Cold One Knights, so he's holding up okay. He's got, what, 79 melee defense right now? I'm having a hard time with his card. 55 just from the hold the line and the regeneration, so I mean, 55 melee attack is 55 melee defense, rather, is quite good. And the other thing, too, is it does appear he has a White Cloak of Ulrich, which is an additional debuff to your opponent's melee attack. So basically the same thing as buffing your melee defense, right? But yeah, unfortunately, Boris getting dragged down by those Cold One Riders. You can see the Slaanesha's Harvesters get chased off here. Terror is becoming a bit of an issue for the Empire, but the Altdorf Griffites are able to get an engagement here against Malekith, which is going to be very favorable for them. And the Knights of the Blazing Sun also still have quite a few units left. Granted, they're starting to get dragged down as they're left in combat for too long. Knights of the Blazing Sun, probably more so than any other Empire Cav, are pure shock cavalry, and you do not want them in sustained combat. Here, though, it looks like we're going to have a big old Soul Stealer, going to be doing a bunch of damage to those Altdorf and to Boris himself. This might be how the Dark Elves could finish things off here, honestly. If they get enough damage in this pocket, you can see the Altdorf not wanting to stay online. It does look like potentially Word of Pain being used also. I'm not 100% sure. But, yeah. Still pretty even in terms of the balance of power, but I do feel the Empire is a pretty commanding position here, especially with the initiative advantage. I mean, we'll see. Granted, Malekith is still going to be a big pain to deal with, and the loss of those Royal Altdorf and a lot of the Hunters as well means that the tools for dealing with Malekith are maybe not what they used to be. But here comes Boris for an air duel. We know, again, Malekith's melee attack being debuffed by that White Cloak of Ulrich, and his speed as well. So as he tries to chase Boris here, he will be debuffed significantly. Boris, again, anywhere he goes with that White Cloak of Ulrich is just such a strong debuff, and a really nice rear charge here from these Knights of the Blazing Sun into those Cold One Knights. Going to be doing a ton of damage. Cold One Knight's going to be dropping quite a few models there, so it's a bit rough. Huntsmen are able to kind of resecure here up on the high ground. More Knights of the Blazing Sun coming in. Boris again dropping down to drop that sweet Cloak of Ulrich debuff on all these foul Dark Elves. And he also gets a few good attacks in on Malekith as well. Knights of the Blazing Sun also supporting in this endeavor. There are a few of them left. There's only a handful of the Cold One Knights as well, so going very well in the Empire's favor at that point. As you can see, the balance of power pretty decisively shifts as Malekith takes that damage. And I know Hadris and I were chatting about the game, and he said that he felt like RNG kind of screwed him over a little bit there, which I agree. You know, when Lords fight like that, it is heavily RNG dependent. I will say, though, Boris has 55 melee defense, and as you saw with the White Cloak of Ulrich debuff, Malekith was down to like 40-something, so, I mean, it kind of makes sense, honestly, that he was able to win quite a few of those dice rolls. You would have liked to have gotten some lucky hits in there, and might have been able to turn things around, but, yeah, really interesting build from Hadris. Honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of Corsairs, although they did get some work done here. It's just an interesting one. Empire versus Dark Elves. Again, I'm much more familiar with the Empire side of this, obviously. I don't play Dark Elves a ton, but there are just a million different directions that both of these factions can go, so it's really hard to kind of theory craft builds around this matchup. Kind of just take whatever you feel like and try and make it work. But certainly Malekith on the Dragon is an absolute powerhouse. I think if he were able to stay alive more into the late game there, he could have probably dragged out a win, but those Knights of the Blazing Sun getting free was definitely a big problem. Although he was able to take out the Altdorf fights there. So very interesting stuff. I've got one more replay to show you, so let's get to it. Alright, and we're back, and Hadris is back with his tried and trusted Tomb Kings. Going to be taking on Tutorial once again. So just because of the way the brackets turned out, these guys ended up having a rematch here. And yeah, very interesting Lizard build. Let's start with this one. So you guys will see me take like veteran state troops for the Empire pretty frequently. I have not seen this though, I will fully admit. We've got a number of Saurus here fully chevroned up to make them basically like elite sword and shield units. They've got 37 attack, 43 defense, and that massive weapon strength as well. Just huge stats all around. A couple of Saurus spears to give a bit of anti-large, and speaking of anti-large, we've also got Saurus Scarvet and Crocky G. Yes, indeed. You don't see Crocky G too much these days, but here he is in a tournament, nonetheless, up against Tomb Kings, which is definitely a good matchup for him. Again, this Saurus Warriors thing I'm super intrigued by. As for Hadris Tomb Kings, we've come to expect SETTRA, and here he is. We've also got Skeleton Chariots and Necropolis Knights. Pretty standard to what we had before. 2 Shabti Great Bows. Let's see here. Tomb Guard with Halberds. And yeah, Skeleton Spears all around. So, yeah, good stuff. We're going to see the Shabti Great Bows get into range here and start firing at some of those infantry. Definitely will be able to do some good damage. I mean, obviously they want to try and shoot the Saurus Warriors with gold chevrons if they can, but we're going to fast forward a little bit through this early skirmish phase as the Lizardmen start to close the distance. And yeah, Crocky G going to be dodging some of those shots. You can see Tutorial just being very patient here and trying to get his units in a full surround, kind of a big concave here. Not really getting overly aggressive. One new mistake I see newer players, and even like myself, often makes this mistake. When your opponent has artillery like this, and yes, Shabti Great Bow are absolutely artillery, it can be a bit tough to not, you know, almost like panic rush and just have everything rush in piecemeal, but you really need to stay patient, stay calm, stay focused, and do exactly what Tutorial's doing here, which is to get a really nice kind of full envelopment. Looks like a Manticore Summon also dropped down to start to interrupt some of these units in the front line, and we'll see. We'll see. This is going to be interesting. I'm very interested to see how these veteran Saurus do against the Tomb Guard. I mean, Tomb Guard 41 melee defense is pretty good, but with that extra attack here, I guess these are the Saurus Spears, so they may not do too much, but yeah. Nice narrow line here. The Ushabti Greatbow is getting some really good shots in on this Scarvet at this point, but oh man, that Hand of the Gods there actually almost completely missed SETTRA, which is very good because it does fire and armor piercing. Probably would have done a bunch of damage to him, but the Scarvet is definitely having a tough time. Skink Manticore Summoner has summoned a Manticore though, and is going to try and stop those Ushabti Greatbows at least from firing, or for the time being. But first Realm of Souls going off, Scarvet comes in. The Krokgar also, the Krokgar also comes in for a rear charge, and suddenly SETTRA's in a really bad situation. He's going to pop that nice bright thing, and the Necropolis Knights are going to come in here to try and bail him out, but SETTRA's taking a ton of damage here right now, which is really, really bad. Granted, Ushabti Greatbows are able to get some effective fire, potentially. It is a bit of a risk of friendly fire at this point, but if they can finish off that Scarvet, then start to focus on Krokgar, I mean, obviously it's going to be tough into the late game, but we'll see. Getting this nice little separation definitely helps, and yeah, I mean, the Saurus are doing well enough in the front line. You can see they're definitely beating down a lot of these units, but even still taking just impact hits from monsters and just through sheer attrition, they even still are starting to take quite a bit of damage, so we'll see. Ooh, man, those Ushabti Greatbows just took a ton of damage here, and this is a pretty decisive engagement where the Saurus Scarvet, who is very wounded but still critically on the field, is able to get in here, maybe shut down a couple of those unit models there. The Necropolis Knights with halberds are also crumbling, and yeah, unfortunately SETTRA now gets surrounded once more by Crocky G and the Scarvet. He's able to somewhat screen himself out with these troops. The last of the Necropolis Knights going to be thrown in here to try and finish off this Scarvet, but he is not going anywhere anytime fast, and these veteran Saurus just continuing to plow through peasants like it's nobody's business, especially against the lower tier peasants. But Balance Power just sort of slowly more and more grinding down in the against the Tomb Kings here, so we'll see if Hadrid can pull it out, but at this point it's not looking great, even just with the dinos left. But yeah, man, these Saurus, just relentless elite veteran Saurus here, continuing to push through, and it really is too bad. I mean, Temple Guard are decent, but they're a halberd unit. It's too bad that Lizardmen don't have like an elite sword and shield type, like, I don't know, maybe like sword and shield type Temple Guard, that instead of having anti-large AP, they just had straight up more weapon strength and better stats. I don't know. But I guess that's what Temple Guard is supposed to be. It's just, I'm not the biggest fan of Temple Guard's stats. I mean, especially in anti-infantry fights, they don't trade super well, whereas Saurus, for the cost, their 50 weapon strength is massive, and you know, with the melee attacks of the gold chevrons here, very interesting. They actually, or sorry, the melee attack buff of the gold chevrons, they actually have enough to get through some units' melee defense. So very interesting. Balance Power has crept back towards even, though, as SETTRA is able to get a good engagement here. A lot of the Tomb King's forces just kind of collapsing into a little death blob, realizing he needs to get these Tomb Guard with halberds in here and start to support SETTRA's engagement. And critically, the Necropolis Knights still have been able to do some consistent damage over this whole time as well. But yeah, here we go. Tomb Guard with halberds in here. Looks like we're going to be getting a big incantation of desiccation, perhaps. I'm not really sure there what that was, but Blessed Blade of Petra on SETTRA. So now we've got the Duel of the Fates here in the pits. This is for all of the marbles. Crocky G versus SETTRA the Imperishable. Oh, looks like we're going to have some Ushabti and other units trying to interrupt here. We'll see. It's very, very close into this late game, as these Saurus, again, just continuing to take impact hits. Although they are grinding through, they are still getting worn down, just because, again, 60 armor is not the most in the world. But yeah, oh man, Crocky G, this is it. This has got to be it right here. SETTRA gives himself a little buff there. Looks like the cursed Joss Incantation of Cursed Blades was not an overcast, though. Not wanting to risk the miscast to give himself bonus versus large, probably smart. But the bonus versus large would have allowed him to make a little bit better contact here. And it looks like he misses his attack several times, which is absolutely devastating. It's going to lead the Tomb Kings to get behind on the balance of power and very quickly start into running into army losses. Although, again, even though the Saurus had taken some losses, there's still this one unit that's very healthy, and the Scarvet and the Croc are healthy enough that it's too much. And the Lizardmen take it. So again, for those of you guys who think the Lizardmen is weak, or as a faction that they are weak, they're not. They're really good, actually. And a very interesting build from Tutorial. I have to admit, I've never seen that before, and I definitely want to try it now, that Gold Chevron Saurus. It's a super narrow army. This is not something that's really within my playstyle at all. I probably would even cut the Saurus Spears just to try and take some more units, because this is super narrow. But a very interesting build from Tutorial, and Hadris, credit to him, he played it reasonably well, all things considered. Maybe having a Tomb Guard with Halberds in some key situations at the right time would have been the game changer, but Necropolis Knights with Halberds, I'm not the biggest fan of these guys, as I mentioned. They did decently here, though. 33 kills on an XP Chevron. Ushabti Greatbows, one of them was able to get great work done, but the other one definitely got dragged down. The Chariot, I'm really not a fan of Tomb King's Chariots, or any Chariots, really, against the Lizardmen. Because Saurus and Temple Guard are some of the heaviest infantry in the game in terms of mass, it can be very hard for Chariots once they hit on the charge to pull through. So I tend not to bring Chariots against the Lizardmen. Also, the Skeleton Chariot doesn't have the most armor in the world, so Saurus will be able to cut it down pretty efficiently. So yeah, I would say if Hadris maybe cut the Skeleton Chariot and just brought more, I don't know, maybe even like Scorpion, like in that last build, double Scorpion. I mean, obviously, you sort of plan for the monsters, right? But, yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. And again, big thanks to Hadris for submitting all those replays. Definitely bold of him to upload all of those tournament games. But hopefully you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.